handout this morning. I think there should be enough copies here. Some of you might need to share.
Thank you.
Our topic is that of abortion, which has been, of course, in the news a lot here lately in Ohio, well, nationally, because of an Ohio story. And we're going to be looking at that particular case a little bit later in the presentation. And what I may be doing today is doing more presentation, and then I'll pause and invite comment or questions. I'm going to try to maybe rein in a little bit on the control of the discussion to make sure we get through this topic all in one session. Okay? So be prepared. If I cut you off, it's not because I don't like you. Okay? It's for the sake of time and trying to get the message all done in one step. So I want to start, though, with the Word of God, which gives, I think, a very clear statement about life in the womb. We're going to look at Luke chapter 1, verses 39 to 45. It's there on the top of your handout, and I'm just going to read that out to you. In those days, Mary arose and went with haste into the hill country, to a town in Judea, and she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. And when Elizabeth heard the greeting of Mary, the baby leaped in her womb. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit, and she exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why is this granted to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For behold, when the sound of your greeting came to my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her from the Lord." So there is that reading. And so the Bible is laying out in front of us that a baby inside of the womb is a baby. Okay? That is a human life. And there are other passages of Scripture that we could look at that speak this way as well. And has been the presentation of the church pretty much from the beginning. And abortion was something that was practiced in the ancient world, and Christians were opposed to it. Okay? They resisted it. I've got a couple of other quotes down there. I got these from Lutherans for Life. And I put the website for Lutherans for Life down here. That's an organization that encourages folks to keep their babies rather than have abortions. And they note there, this is from a science magazine, Nature. The life cycle of mammals begins with when a sperm enters an egg. In other words, life begins at conception. Okay? That is a scientific understanding. And then they're according to the National Institutes of Health. Fertilization, this is in their dictionary, is the process of union of two gametes, that is, ovum and sperm, whereby the somatic chromosome number is restored and the development of a new individual is initiated. Once again, life begins at conception, as the scientists here at the National Institutes of Health are describing it. So this is how I see it and how I come at it as your pastor, and how I think about it as I think about these issues and teach on them. It's also what we talk about when we go to catechism class. Okay? We talk about that in that way. Let's speak for just a moment about Roe versus Wade and being overturned and what that has meant. There's been a lot of misunderstanding. As I've talked with people, especially some of our young people, they think abortion has been banned.
Nope.
And they're confused about what's really happened with the overturning of Roe. And I explained to them that it's simply been handed back to the states so that the states can make decisions about what they will do, how they will handle this in their states. So Ohio has a fairly restrictive practice. That is, once you can detect the baby's heartbeat, then you cannot have an abortion in the state of Ohio. Indiana, I believe, just passed the same kind of legislation. I think the same applies in a state like Texas. In contrast, though, the state of Kansas passed it, and they did not have that kind of restriction on it. I'm not sure if there are any restrictions on abortion in Kansas. So it's different in different places now. That's the big change. It's no longer a federal thing. And the reason Roe versus Wade was overturned, that judicial decision there, is because of something called penumbras. When the Justice Blackmun wrote that, he said that he saw in the Constitution what he called penumbras of a right to privacy. Now, you cannot find the expression right to privacy anywhere in the Constitution. It's not there. Okay? He says he sees things that kind of point that direction, and this word penumbras, it's a science term, and it refers to the light that comes around the edge of an eclipse. Okay? And he said that little bit of light that he saw shining through in the Constitution paved the way for saying that there was a right to privacy. And that became the foundation for saying it's a woman's body, it's her choice to have an abortion. That's how that all happened. And what has happened is that as other courts and lawyers and judges have looked at this issue, they have said, wait a minute, the Constitution doesn't say this. It doesn't say this. There is no right to privacy in the Constitution. And I'm going to give you a few examples to illustrate how that thinking is a problem. Okay? My body, my choice. Okay? That's the cry of the abortion movement. But think about this. Can you really do whatever you want with your body?
No.
You can't. A good example is something that happens right down here on Parsons. Prostitution. Okay? That is illegal. They can't do that with their bodies, even if they want to. Why not? Why can't they say, hey, I've got a right to privacy, I can do what I want with my body, and I should be able to do that for money or whatever? Why can't they do it?
Against the law.
It's against the law.
Harmful to society.
It's harmful to society, isn't it? The things that they do privately have public consequences.
Causes a lot of divorce.
Causes a lot of issues. Divorce would be one. Another would be disease.
Disease. Yeah.
The spread of disease.
Another going to jail because they're minors.
That can happen too.
Yep.
So this is an example of how there is no absolute right to privacy. We talk this way when we own our land, don't we? I can do what I want on my land. Well, yes and no, right? Yes and no. We've got significant freedom to do what we like on our property. But if your sewage is running off into an Ohio stream, guess what?
They're going to come in and dig it up.
They're going to come after you.
The water won't taste that good.
The water won't taste that good, I agree. Even though it's on your property, your private property, it still has a public consequence and effect. Okay? So what the judicial people have been saying instead of what was written for Roe is they've been saying this: citizens have an expectation of privacy. An expectation. We can expect that our privacy will be respected. But if the government, if society has a significant reason to cross that boundary of privacy, They have a right under our Constitution to do that. Okay? So the reasoning that made Roe versus Wade has basically been said to be not sound. It's not based in the Constitution. It certainly doesn't agree with how we do law in other areas of life. And that's why this has been overturned. Okay? I'm going to pause for a moment. Any comments or questions on what you've been hearing so far? Go ahead, Jim.
When are people going to be responsible to themselves? I thought the Bible said that you have a soul. When you're, before you're,
Yeah.
what's happened with that? The lawyers have changed that?
We'll be talking more about the personal responsibility, especially in matters of sex, here in just a little bit. Okay? I've got some charts and things we'll be looking at together.
Pastor,
Yes, sir.
when did Roe versus Wade, when did it come in effect? In the 1970s?
73?
Okay.
I
now,
think.
I got another question there.
Yeah.
Back in the 1940s, what was that lady's name who was a Nazi, who started all this in the United States by wanting to genocide black people?
Oh.
And she put them in.
Oh, okay. Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood. Yeah.
Yep.
Eugenics is the practice it's called, to try to get rid of the bad people
Right.
and breed only good people.
And the only places they put these abortion clinics, is it not true they put them in poor neighborhoods? That's
That
what
I don't know, Joe. That I don't know. That could be. We're going to look here at some information about abortion clinics in Ohio. I'm going to talk about that in a minute and how this is all
I
changing.
know there's been about 60 million lives lost due to abortion since it started.
Yes. So it's been a big public impact. Let's go on to the next thing here. I want you to look at a chart with me on abortions, induced abortions in Ohio. This is from Ohio Department of Health. And you'll see that there. It's got the page number 5 in the bottom corner of it. And look at what this chart is showing. It runs from 1993 down to 2020. And what's it showing about the number of abortions taking place in Ohio?
Came down.
It's declining, isn't it? It's declining. And the decline has been significant. There's a few different reasons for that. In fact, I read in the literature I was looking at, I think Cleveland, or not Cleveland, but Ohio used to have about 21 abortion clinics back in the bigger years. I think we're down to just 3 now. It's been greatly reduced in number in Ohio. It's been greatly reduced in Ohio. I think there are 3 reasons this is happening. One has to do with population. People are not having as many children as they used to. And so that is causing a reduction in the number of abortions. Number 2, contraception is more widely available and better understood. I've got a chart coming later about different methods of contraception that are out there and being used. And then the third factor, I think, is people are, as they're being educated and abortion is being discouraged, I think people are not choosing it. They're deciding not to do it. And all 3 of these factors are working together to lower the number of those abortions taking place. Yes, Karen?
I suppose it kind of falls under 3, but would you not say that the availability of health clinics that have ultrasound, that they can go and see the baby and you see eyes and fingers and things like that, and science ironically has created fewer abortions because people can see that it's a baby.
Yeah.
It's not a mass of flesh.
So at the back table here where Susan is seated, you can see some fetal models back there, and the youngest one depicted is 9 weeks old. Hold that up, Susan. That's the size of one of the babies at about 9 weeks.
Or is it 12?
Or excuse me, is it 9 or 12?
The thing says 12.
12, excuse me, 12 weeks. You can see the size of that baby, what it looks like, how well it's formed already at that time. And as people understand this, as they understand more about life in the womb, they are more likely to say, well, that's a child. The other big factor, Karen, I would say in educating people that way is the births of preemies. Premature children are being born at an earlier and earlier and earlier time, all the time. And people see those babies come out, and they mature, and they grow, and they're just like you and me, and they go, wow, that was a baby all along. That was a baby from the start. So those are some of the factors, I think, leading to this rejecting of the practice of abortion. Helping people see that abortion is a pretty radical way of trying to address these family issues that come up. Let's look at a chart on who is choosing abortion. That's the one that's numbered 9 in the bottom right-hand corner on your handout. And this is data from Ohio by the Ohio Department of Health. And you can see the numbers there. They've got it parsed out in different ways. The age, race, education, marital status, all kinds of different ways of looking at the data. And as you look at that, I want you to notice the community of people that is probably most affected by the practice of abortion. It's under the race group. You see abortion among whites in Ohio is 86-67. Abortion among blacks is 89-09. I believe in the United States, African Americans represent about 12% of the population. And yet they are more than 40% of the abortions that are happening in Ohio. So Joe, you made the comment earlier that this is affecting people who are poor. We know that more African Americans are below the poverty line. And now we see in this statistic how those families are being affected by abortions. Okay? So there's much that enters into this discussion of abortion. I wanted you to see, though, the impact it's having on people here in Ohio and the different categories that are there. Take a little time and look over those numbers. The age, notice the age of those having abortion. Look back at that chart. Where's the majority of that taking place in terms of age range? How old is the woman, the mother? She's probably in her 20s. She's probably in her 20s. Okay? When these decisions are being made. So you get a picture there. It's how many are happening with younger women or children, even, because that's the story that's been big in the news. It's very few. It's very few. It's much lower. I think the number of abortions for 15 and under in Ohio back in 2020 was, I think, about 50. So it's a very small percentage of the overall total. What we're seeing in the news is an exceptional case. It is truly an exceptional case. We'll be talking about that case here in just a little bit. Another chart, that's numbered 35. This is the chart about contraception. And you see there a whole list of ways. This is based on interviews of the mothers as they came for the abortion, of the different ways they were practicing contraception. And the one that made me laugh when I saw it is a little bit past the center part of the chart there, the one listed as abstinence. Because there were 2 cases connected with that. Either somebody doesn't understand abstinence, which is what made me giggle, Or it might be the case that these were women who were violated, who were trying to practice abstinence in their lives, but were violated and became pregnant as a consequence of that. So that puts a much more sober frame on the whole thing. We'll be talking about the issue of rape here in a little bit as well. So I've got a bunch of data in front of you, a bunch of statistics. Any comments or questions on what you're seeing there? Jim?
I thought birth control pills were free.
Birth control pills are free?
Remember Obama tried to force the little girls of the...
Yeah, that I don't know about. I know there are probably clinics that give away free contraception. I know that's been in the news before, but I'm sure that most people are paying for it at their local drugstore or those kinds of places. Jim?
How much does this affect the world? Do you have any idea?
You mean the practice of abortion?
Well, like I've heard, I think in China, I'm not sure, if they don't have a boy, they abort the girl.
Yes, that's been a common problem in China. China had a one-child policy because they considered themselves overpopulated. And so families could not have more than one. And when the mom became pregnant with a girl, oftentimes there was pressure in the family to abort because there was a preference given to boys, and many children were lost that way.
I just wondered if they had anything, on it or affected the world, because I don't think it has.
Yeah.
I think it's just the United States.
That's been affected by abortion?
Well, United States, it has, because they're trying to, get it to the states to do what they, approve for.
Oh, you mean is Roe versus Wade affecting places, the overturning of Roe? It's not affecting any other countries. It's only affecting the United States.
Okay.
That's our law. It's not an international law.
Okay, I thought maybe they had some effect.
But in any modern country in the world, I think almost all of them have had abortion. Oh, how about Ireland? Ireland was one that had banned abortion. I'm not sure whether that's been overturned or not.
I think you can have an abortion.
Now in Ireland it's legal. It's become legal.
So right now.
So that is a change that we've seen in these policies on an international level. But any modern country, this practice will be there in some way, shape, or form.
Hey, Pastor, I got one more question.
Yeah.
Are we not supposed to follow the law?
Sure.
Okay, what does the Bible say? It says, thy God says, you shall not murder. And that's exactly what it is. So which law are we supposed to follow? Are we supposed to follow the Bible or the local laws? I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, as individuals, we're certainly following God's law.
Right.
I trust that we're not putting this into practice, the practice of abortion in our lives or in our families.
But I do think some people in this country, runs our country, thinks they're above God. I do think that.
Yeah, the dividing point, Joe, is over when you believe it's a human life. There are those who will say that it's not a human life until a particular point, or maybe even at birth. Whereas what we're pointing out from the scriptures is that life in the womb was considered life.
Right, that's why.
And I would say, and I teach, when I teach the catechism, life begins at conception.
That's what I always talk
Yeah.
to. That's why I'm asking that.
Yeah. So the country is divided on this issue. We have a divided country. There's different thoughts on it. And that's how this all came about in the laws and practice. I'm very thankful to God to see this decline.
I am too.
I think that is going to be a good thing. But I would say if we expect abortion to suddenly go away, this overturning of Roe is not going to do that. It will not do that. Okay? Joyce, were you going to say something?
Well, I don't think the fight is over, because I've heard several people talk like the right to life, and abortion clinics may be disappearing, but now they're going to be turning to the chemical
Yes.
induced when they do it at home?
There are drugs that can be taken.
And it's mail order too now.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And the little girl that family that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit here, that Ohio family, the kind of abortion she had was based on the drugs. She went to Indianapolis and they gave her those drugs, and that's how that abortion took place. So it was not a surgical procedure in her case. So yes, that is another factor. The medicine keeps changing, and it will keep changing. It will keep changing. I'm going to take Jim's comment, and then I'm going to move on. Go ahead.
These extreme liberals, they believe you should be able to kill a baby even after it's born. You know.
Well, under the law, it has been legal.
That's your,
Under our law as a country, that has been legally allowed. So in our courts, it would not be regarded as murder. Okay?
when you murder somebody now, it's not murder. You had a bad
Let's not get off topic. Jerry, go ahead.
Pastor, I don't know where you're at in your presentation, but are you going to show the connection as we go back to the Old Testament? The Jews, you have to understand, from my reading, and certainly in Exodus, they talk about bitter water, which was to have abortion for women.
Yeah, that's a misunderstanding of the passage. It's in the book of Numbers, I believe.
Well, I don't know that it is a misunderstanding. That's what you say. I've done some reading on it.
Yeah.
And it seems that it was permitted, and especially because the woman had committed adultery. And the drinking of bitter water aborted that particular fetus. And then you also, I think you have to, and I don't know where you're going, but I think it may be Exodus, but it talks about if a female being pregnant and two men were fighting and the baby aborted because of that fight, the person that caused that injury would be put to death. I mean, I'm trying to understand, for my purpose, the connection of how it started out in the Bible that abortion took place.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Jerry, that's not correct. That's
Well,
not correct.
tell me how it's not correct.
Okay. Find anywhere a translation that uses the word abortion in that passage.
No, it doesn't.
And you can't.
It doesn't use the word abortion,
It
but
doesn't
it's
use
the
it.
same effect. Drinking of bitter water caused the fetus to abort.
No, it doesn't say fetus. It doesn't say baby.
The pastor, you're playing on words.
I'm not, Jerry.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
The word that is used there, it says that her thigh will rot. Now, to jump from that to saying that's a baby is a pretty big jump. That's a pretty big jump.
Well, show me the connection, because I'm trying to understand that. To me, there's numerous places in the Bible where, and I'm not trying to support abortion, I'm trying to understand it.
Okay.
And part of the problem with the issues that we have in this country with abortion right now is abortion and the courts and the rulings was all based on Christian belief. It didn't have to do with Jewish, it didn't have to do with Islam or Muslim, and our whole population in this country has changed. And it was predicated on most white males, Christian, making this decision. And that's kind of where we're at. So I want to understand the connection of how in the Old Testament and we got to where we're at today. Because I listened to a panel, it was 3 women, a Jewish rabbi and a Muslim female and a white Christian female, and they discussed it, and they were far apart, very far apart, based on their religious beliefs.
Sure. So we do not have a united nation on this issue, and that's why it's continuing to be discussed. There's no court
never gonna
decision.
go away.
There's no court decision more debated, discussed, and protested than the Roe versus Wade decision. And it took 50 years for that to get overturned. And, yeah, this issue is not going to go away.
It'll never go away.
But what you're describing in the Old Testament passage is called a trial by ordeal. That's how the cultural historians look at that. And what it is a man has accused his wife of being an adulteress. It says nothing about her being pregnant. It says that he is accusing her of adultery, and then she is to go to the priest, and they have her drink water that was made from a mixture that was taken from the sanctuary, and she's put under the curse that if she's committed adultery, she's going to get sick. If she's not committed adultery, she won't get sick. It's called a trial by ordeal.
Sounds like it.
Okay? And there are other cultural examples of this found in the ancient Near East of this kind of practice. It never mentions a baby, never mentions a fetus, never mentions pregnancy, never mentions those things. So the interpreters who are going that direction, I think, go way too far.
All right.
Way too far.
That's your opinion, okay?
It's my opinion as a Bible scholar, a published Bible scholar.
Okay, well, I'm not a published Bible scholar, but I'm trying to do some readings to get some understanding.
And that is an opinion that I'm just telling you, in the interpreters, it is way far out.
Well,
Way far out.
the Jewish religion does not consider, until a child is actually born, is when they then count that as a child and it has rights.
Is that true of all Jews?
Well, no, Pastor, because there's
Okay.
nuances with
So
different...
just as the Christians are divided on this topic, Jews are divided on this topic. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. I can look into that some more and talk with you, Jerry, about it.
I'm
I'd
fine.
be happy to do a presentation on that. Let's move on. Okay, so we looked at methods of contraceptions. Let's look at a chart from the Guttmacher Institute, and this is one on why women choose abortion. And that is on the back page of your handout. And you'll see a variety of reasons there. And the women who were interviewed, the Guttmacher Institute is one that works closely with the abortion clinics. As they were interviewed, they were invited to give different reasons for why they were choosing to have an abortion. And you can see the variety there. The top ones being that having a baby would dramatically change my life. Another top one there you see is that I can't afford to have a baby right now. Okay? So those are among the top reasons why women choose to have abortions. So in part it's an economic thing and a life thing that is affecting their decision. And we need to recognize, I think, as a culture, that there are many women out there who become pregnant and will need help. If they're going to bring that child to term, they're going to need help, they're going to need support to care for that child. Okay? And this is something that if you believe in reducing the number of abortions, that affects us, doesn't it? If we support legislation that reduces the number of abortions, it probably means that we've got to support legislation that helps those mothers as they are in that transitional time before a baby is brought to term. So be aware of that. Be thinking about that. Let's get to the specific case in question.
Man, have a baby. They're asking for,
They've been beating children.
they're asking for abortion.
And this is the The specific case we saw here in Ohio, and I want to talk about the moral responsibilities involved. And you see the chart that I have laid out there for you. Father's name is Gerson. His, I'll use the word girlfriend because they're in a live-in relationship together. And this is the daughter in this case, or the girl in this case. She was raped by Gerson when she was 9 years old. Happened, according to the court records to this point, it happened twice. That she was raped. She was 9 at the time, and from one of those occasions, she became pregnant. The time when she had abortion she was 10. She had aged another year. So that was a part of what was being discussed in the news. I'm going to put the baby up here in the chart as well. Who is morally responsible for the problem of this situation?
The guy that raped her?
The guy that raped her?
Yep, plus the mother.
Okay, why would you say the mother is responsible?
Because first of all, she should have never had him in the household living with him unmarried.
Okay. So this is one of the things, as the news of this all developed and came forward, this couple was living together, and the girl was not his daughter. She was not his daughter. She was from another earlier relationship. This is a part of the reason I wanted to have this class, to communicate with families, okay, and the different families you represent, about the dangers of live-in relationships when there are children in the home. These situations where children get raped, and it can be a boy or a girl these days, we've got to be aware of that. The problem can happen in both cases. But when a couple moves in together and there are children present in the home, that is when most of these rape situations happen. That's how it happens. Okay? Especially when the man in the relationship is not the father of those children. It's very, very dangerous for the children. So I would agree that he certainly bears responsibility. He's legally responsible, isn't he? They are also looking into whether the mother is legally responsible in this case.
What would that be, like neglect?
Child endangerment, I think.
Child endangerment?
Yeah, one of the things that happened as this story was breaking is the Spanish language channel Telemundo went and interviewed Lourdes, is her name, and asked her about the situation, asked her about the relationship, and she defended Gerson and said that he was innocent and he had done nothing wrong after all of this had taken place. Now, she may have been panicked by a news reporter being there, and that's understandable if you've ever had a microphone shoved in your face. You can understand how people would panic. But she was thinking that what he had done, or was defending him as not having done the wrong thing.
Pastor, could that also be because way she was brought up too?
Possibly. And one of the things I did, Joe, is I looked into, he was from Guatemala.
Right.
He's an illegal alien. He's from Guatemala. And I looked into statutory rape in Central American countries to see whether culturally this would have been something that was permitted. And it's also illegal in Central America. It would have been a rape situation also in that part of the world. So really, he's got no excuse. He can't say, well, that's what we do in my culture.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But with that said, being he's illegal, correct?
He's illegal, yeah.
Okay. What was his background before he come into this country
That-
illegally by breaking our laws?
Yeah, that I have not looked into, Joe. That I've not looked into. I believe she's also an illegal alien, but she went to a high school here in Ohio. She's a graduate of one of our high schools here in the Columbus area.
You know, I don't have.
So she's been in the States a longer time, I think. Jim, go ahead.
Since we have no correction, when these people go to penitentiary, they get their penalty, because most of them get killed. Because a lot of people may be bad.
Yeah.
But if somebody rapes a child.
Yeah, that I don't know, Jim. I don't know what happens to them after they go to prison. That's a statistic I have not investigated, so I'm not sure what to say about that. Is the little girl morally responsible for this situation? Not at all. Not at all. This is something that was forced upon her against her, well, we assume against her will. We assume that. And this is where I want to address what's happening with young men. Make sure the young men in your families understand that if they have sexual intimacy with a young lady 15 years or younger, they are committing rape. It is called statutory rape, and it is that crime is going to follow them the rest of their lives. They will be categorized as a sex offender. Even if she says yes, even if she says yes 1,000 times, it is still regarded as rape. Okay? And the young men need to understand this and curb their passions before they create havoc in their lives and the lives of others. Yes?
Girls, 15, I thought it was 18 was the age limit.
No, it's
15?
yeah, if you're under 16, it's statutory rape.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an underage boy and an underage girl. If it's a man 20 or older or something, then 18 is the age, right?
She was 60.
Say it again, Karen, I'm not sure I know that
If
one.
it's an underage boy having a relationship with an underage girl, then it's probably 15, but if it's like a 25-year-old boy
Okay.
and a girl, she's got to be 18.
Yeah, there may be exceptions in the law if both of them are younger or underage. That I don't know. I don't know that specifically. It's usually an older male with a younger female is usually the situation that arises and happens. Okay? So back to the question of moral responsibility. We've talked about the responsibility of the father, of the mother. We've decided that the girl, to our knowledge, has done nothing wrong.
Well, she's a minor.
She's a minor. She's not morally responsible. What about the baby?
Not responsible.
Not responsible. And this is, I think, where the biggest problem with abortion arises. The babies who get aborted have done nothing wrong. Nothing to deserve a death penalty. And yet they're made to bear the consequences of the decisions of adults. And this is where I think the injustice of abortion is most glaring. That the children are forced to bear that penalty in their lives, with their lives. Yeah, Karen.
Do you think part of the reason why it's such a controversy, though, is you start to get into the risk of the life of the mother, and when the girl's 9 or 10, she might be physically, it might be a risk to her to have a baby that early. And
Yeah.
I mean, even the Catholic Church allows for if the mom's going to die, then, you know, if she couldn't pass a baby, I mean, there's the Syrian section, rape and incest and that kind of thing is always the hard point.
Yeah, there are cases where the life of the mother can be in danger. That's, once again, a very small measure or percentage of the abortions that take place in the country. It's very small. But that occasion can come up. And there I think you can morally say you can err on the side of preserving the mother's life. That's defensible, I think.
They chose to amplify this story is because it crosses so many of those lines, and it
Right.
is such a low percentage of the...
Right. Yeah, this is very much an exceptional situation that comes up in the total number of abortions in Ohio and in our nation. So it's a tail wagging the dog situation, very much, and not even the tail; it's a hair on the end of the tail of the dog that they're trying to use to keep abortion as a common practice. And I wanted to make sure the congregation understood that. I might come back to it. Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, like, in this case specifically, a lot of people's arguments, because I've talked to several people on this topic, especially about this case, their argument is that girl, only being 9 or 10 years old, her own body couldn't handle a full-term abortion, or a full-term pregnancy. And you're putting the young girl's life at risk by making her have that baby.
Yeah. I think that's probably a doctor's... I think that's a doctor's decision, case by case.
Yeah.
This is the point I was going to make. Girls are reaching puberty at an earlier age, has to do with changes in nutrition, in available nutrition. And so when this case first came up, a lot of people said, "Oh, that can't be. She can't be 10 years old and be pregnant, and she hasn't reached that point in her life." Well, in fact, folks, girls are maturing earlier because of the changes in nutrition. This is another thing for families to be aware of. Okay? Those young ladies are at the ability to get pregnant at an earlier age. It's happening. And be aware of that. I want to point out one other thing here I had written on my outline there at the top of page 2. If this, God forbid, this should happen in one of our families, God forbid, but if it should, the thing the family needs to do is when they find out that this has happened, get that young lady to the hospital right away. Okay? Her system can be cleared before she gets pregnant. Okay? There are procedures for that, so that she doesn't get into that situation of pregnancy, okay, and the extra issues that come with it. So please be sharing this with members of your family, with the children and grandchildren, so that they understand the risks and what to do. You get to the hospital as soon as possible. Let's talk a minute about, I have down there, what might a congregation do in this situation? Oh, one other thing to note in the charts. A thing to note in the charts is how many of the people who seek abortions were using some sort of contraception when they got pregnant.
Probably none.
It's not none. It's certainly not none. But you'll see that the vast majority of people who end up seeking abortions were not using contraception. They were not using contraception. So even before getting to this issue, they're making some bad decisions, aren't they? And once again, the danger, the thing I think is so morally frightening is that a baby is made to bear the responsibility of their poor decisions. And that is so unjust. So unjust. God help us to realize we need to take care of the body, manage the life that God has entrusted to us. What might we do as a congregation? The first thing I want to say to you is stay peaceful, okay? and encourage progressive change. As we were talking about here a minute ago, this is not going to go away immediately. This practice is not going to go away. It may even swing back another way, okay? And increase again. That might happen. We have to be patient, educating on our family, and God willing, we will see progressively this practice of abortion go into decline further, and God willing, go away. Another thing, but I'm going to emphasize peaceful, okay? I'm going to emphasize peaceful. Going out and shooting people because you're angry about abortion is not the way to go, okay? Because that's also murder, isn't it?
Yep.
That's taking a person's life, and we're not permitted by God to do that. I would encourage you to visit, I've got the website down on there, lutheransforlife.org. Okay, this is an organization that educates about life matters. They're the ones who sent us these fetal models. Okay, so you can see what the babies look like while they're still in the womb, how they're developing. Go in and check their website and see what you can learn from them. I've also put down there, support a local pregnancy center that supports life. So one that helps mothers who are pregnant and want to keep the baby, no matter what their economic situation might be. That would be a good institution for our congregation to support. We're going to end with reading this from the Psalms.
Hey, Pastor,
Yes.
Is there any of those centers here in Ohio?
I have one that's been emailing me. I haven't explored it yet. It would be great if we had a person in the congregation who would serve as a congregational representative to this organization to learn what their needs are and how Emmanuel can be helpful to them.
I know if I hear on the radio and stuff, on Christian radio channels,
Yeah.
they always say support them and, give them money for abortion,
But supporting the babies and their mothers.
right,
Yeah.
for an ultrasound.
So they can
And they say
learn.
90% of the people wanting an abortion, once they see a child in the ultrasound, they usually change their mind pretty
Sure.
quick.
Sure.
In your regular abortion clinics, they do not do that.
Right. So there's a failure there to educate the mother about what's happening inside of her, what's really happening. Yeah, Jim.
You was talking about the nutrition for girls, they mature, does it also affect boys, doesn't it?
Yes.
The nutrition would probably also affect boys.
So you'd have to
I don't know that I've seen statistics though on boys reaching puberty earlier. That might be the case. Does anybody know whether boys are reaching puberty earlier because of the nutrition?
If they did,
Yeah, I don't know.
If you did, they'd have to watch them too.
Sure, because the desire for sex would be rising earlier
That's what I did.
in their minds and their hearts. Yeah. I'm going to let you speak, Sherry, and then I'm going to read from the Bible.
Okay, real quick, I used to work on the Right to Life board many years back in the 80s, and there still are today, they're called crisis centers, and those crisis centers, they're not publicized, especially if they're Christian. They're not giving the advertisement that's needed. For instance, there was a girl we had that was 11 years old, and this was back in the 80s. She was 11 years old. She was pregnant. Mom didn't want to do abortion. But the crisis center, when you take children, or even as an adult, you go to these centers and you're confused about what you want to do. You have options to keep the baby. They'll nurture you. They'll give you the nutrition on a daily basis like they did this young girl. She needed special nutrition. She needed doctor care. The crisis center, they surrounded her. That's what their purpose is. They walked through, that child gave birth. She wanted to give it up in the beginning. But the mom chose, the daughter changed her mind, and it was up to the young girl if she wanted to see that baby, not see it with mom's help, because she was a minor. They ended up, the mom ended up keeping the child and helping her daughter with that child. She had a live birth, had the best of care, but she also had the option to of being put to sleep for a cesarean section, not to have any interaction with that child. It would be handed off to a foster care, which is, this is true for any older adults too, in rape situations. You never have to put your eyes, not even on an ultrasound, on that child if you don't want connection.
Okay, this is from Psalm 139, starting at the 13th verse, where the Lord, or the psalmist is saying this: "For you formed my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth." And the earth here in this case refers probably to the womb. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. So it shows the intimacy with which God cares for our lives before we're born, okay, while we're still in the womb. Let's bow our heads and have a closing prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the guidance of your word, which encourages us to seek and support life. Give us wisdom as individuals, as families and congregations, to protect our young people, to give them a clear understanding of the right and wrong in these matters, and to encourage and support life as you give us strength and opportunity. We also pray, dear Lord, for families that have chosen abortion and what that means for them, for their health, for their moral life. O Lord our God, we ask for your compassion and your mercy for them and also for our nation as we struggle to see these changes made that protect life. We pray all of these mercies in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, folks, for your input.